Hey everybody, welcome to Geek Rant. It's Greg here with Toby, and today we're talking about the season finale of season 1 of Obi Wan Kenobi. Episode 6. We both watched this recently. It's quite fresh in our minds, which is great. Always nice to. I've actually watched it a couple of times. I watched it the other evening, Wednesday evening, and saw it again this afternoon. So
Yep. I've seen it once a couple of hours ago. So it should be fresh. Although I have to admit, it was a really dark episode. There was lots of darkness. Yeah. I'm watching it during the day and I couldn't see anything.
Yes, it was, wasn't it? It was.
It was.
Back to a good bit of darkness. Yeah, no, I quite enjoyed it.
I mean, I like the darkness, but it was difficult.
But I know what you mean. When it's light in the room, it's hard to see it, isn't it?
Yeah, it was really dark.
Anyway, so in episode 5, we saw that they'd escaped from Jabin and they were being pursued by the Star Destroyer with Darth Vader on it. Reva had tried, obviously, to kill Darth Vader, and she had found this little communicator, there was a message from Bail Organa. Basically, it was a garbled message, but it sort of said something about the children on Tatooine, and so she's picked this up as a clearly these must be Darth Vader's kids, and I'm going to Tatooine to sort this out. So that's where the beginning of the episode starts. We're on Tatooine. And she is in the little town or city, wherever it is that Owen goes and visits, and she's doing her Inquisitor bit, really looking for Owen, looking for this farmer, and wanting to find out where he is. Then we sort of cut to the rebel ship. You know, they're being chased by Darth Vader in his Star Destroyer. This bit was this was a classic moment. Yeah, this was a classic moment of this massive ship shooting all its lasers at this tiny little ship that's taken all the hits.
Yeah.
Why didn't they send out some of their TIE fighters or attack the ship in another way? You know, it was a bit.
Well, it was a bit ridiculous. He has the stupid line, doesn't he? Increase firepower.
Yeah. He does. Darth Vader.
Yeah, Darth Vader says this, and I'm like, what? Why don't they just shoot the thing down, for God's sake? It can't be that hard, can it? They had at least 10 turrets shooting at this ship, which was like right at the front. If I was a ship, I would have sort of flown back and around and gone around the ship a bit rather than just sort of hang out the front perfect for a little. I don't get how they think about these battles in this. I mean,
it's really bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is really bizarre. Yeah, I just thought, you know, a Star Destroyer like that has got probably 500 TIE fighters sitting in its bay. You know, why didn't they send out a load of TIE fighters just to, you know, take out its engines and push it back to the ship? You know,
or lock it on a tractor beam or something like
that. Yes. Yeah, they don't. I don't know if they really. They did on the Death Star, didn't they?
But they didn't they? The Death Star.
The Death Star
they get caught in the tractor beam, don't they?
Yes, yeah, but I don't know if the normal ships have it. So, but anyway, Kenobi's there. He decided, the general gist of it is the ship is damaged. They can't go into hyperspace to escape. They've got to just fly and get hit on their shields. So he decides, I'm going to try and divert them away and I'm going to get on a little ship. You know, save everybody on the ship. You're all the future. He wants me, so I'm going to go. So he jumps in his little ship and flies off. And on the Star Destroyer, you see Darth Vader with the Inquisitors, and he's saying we shouldn't be going after one person. We've got to get the overall, you know, rebels. And Darth Vader's no, Kenobi's the one, and so they divert off, you know. Again, they could have 20 or 30 ships they could have just sent off to follow the other little small vessel.
Another really stupid plot hole. I mean, honestly, he doesn't need the whole blooming Star Destroyer, does he, to follow Obi-Wan down to that planet, for God's sake. He could have just taken his TIE fighter and gone on his own. It's a personal vendetta anyway. I mean, and the Inquisitor questions Darth, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
Openly questions Darth.
Yeah.
no, Lord, or whatever he calls him, we shouldn't go.
Exactly.
And just for one person, which makes sense. They could have cut off the whole rebellion at that point. Now they're going to have this whole kind of cascade effect of rebellion people just from that moment.
Yes. Yeah. No, absolutely. And Obi Wan is preparing himself, isn't he, for a fight with Darth Vader. He's trying to talk to Qui-Gon, and he can't sort of seem to get any reception on his and so he goes off in this small ship, and then they follow off back with Owen and Luke and so on. They're on still on Tatooine, and Reva's now pursuing them. So he's heard from one of his friends in the town, quick, you got to get yourself away. He goes back home, talks to Baru. She's well, we got to stand and fight. We can take her if we do it together, which I thought was quite ballsy.
Girl power.
Girl power. Yeah. So yeah, that was quite an interesting turn. Doesn't call for help. They decide, right, we're going to try and take on a fully trained Inquisitor on our own. There we go.
Yeah, because he's made to look like the weak member of the relationship.
Do you think? I don't know.
I think so.
Yeah, maybe.
He wants to flee. She's suddenly all strong and wants to stand.
Yeah.
It sort of comes out of nowhere, really.
A little bit.
Mm.
So they prepare themselves, don't they, for an attack? They think, well, she's probably going to attack when it gets dark, so we'll get prepared for that. And they sort of put Luke in a one of the outbuildings and say, stay here, and all this sort of thing. Again, we're getting to the conflicts that they've all wanted to see again. We're back to the conflict between Darth Vader and Kenobi. So Kenobi's gone down to this planet, and like you were saying earlier, it's a very dark planet, which is very rocky
type.
Yeah, it's very rocky, isn't it? It's got lots of sort of like pillars of rock, sort of all over. So it's quite a nice field to have a fight in.
It was, but I mean, it was pretty much like the last place they fought in, wasn't it? A bit more rocky.
Yeah, it was dark, wasn't it? Yeah.
Dark, rocky, a kind of barren planet type environment, and it was a shame. They had an opportunity here to stage something a bit special. I think when you look back on some of the fights that they've had in these things, you've got like the one on the Death Star. Is it Death Star where they're fighting in that room, and the Carbonite room, and they could have.
That's in the Cloud City, isn't it?
In the Cloud City. Sorry, yes,
Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah. I just felt like they could have done something different with this and made it look fantastic. As it was dark and very difficult to sort of make out, especially seeing I was watching it during the day. I couldn't bloody see anything apart from the occasional flashing. I think one of the things they wanted to do was have a big scale thing so you could pull back and see them from a distance, and sort of give us a sense of awe to the operation. But I just felt I thought it was shit,
Oh, did you?
And it was obvious.
Oh, that's
I did. I know. I'm sorry to disagree with you, but I thought it was all right. Just a prime setup for the rock rock throwing.
Yes,
that's what it was about. It was.
Yes,
they were just.
Yeah.
A plot. It was just very much
a Ray moment, wasn't there, where he starts picking up all the boulders and start throwing them and stuff, and she picked all the boulders up to let them out of to escape in the Last Jedi. So they basically, Obi-Wan prepares himself and he faces off against Darth Vader again. Like we say, they go at it, don't they? Darth kind of is the first round. Darth kind of wins. He sort of crushes the ground. I don't know how he sensed there was a void in the ground, but he crushes and Obi-Wan falls down into a small sort of, I don't know. It was like it just like
a little
crevice or something. So he's fallen down there, and then Darth Vader
couldn't really see,
chucking boulders. You can't blame it on the fact that you were watching it.
No, you can. It's poorly lit. It's a poorly lit scene. It's badly shot. It's badly edited, and you don't quite know what's going on. I mean, you couldn't describe them what was going on, and you could see it. I mean, it's like it's this bad staging.
Yeah, and yeah, he's throwing the boulders onto him, isn't he? And you know, he's doing the old typical thing of I'm going to chuck some stuff on and then walk away, and you know, not check that he's dead or anything like that.
Yeah.
But you know, Obi-Wan is in there, isn't he? And he's having these dark thoughts, you know, about all the sort of bad things that happened in the past, and then suddenly he kind of flips the switch, doesn't he? He thinks about Leia and Luke, and that's when, because he's holding back the rocks with his force power, and he then just thrusts and chucks all the rocks off, and he re-engages with Darth Vader, doesn't he? And they start. that's when he's kind of got his badass attitude back. He starts throwing rocks at Darth Vader, smashing. You know, there's a bit where he's smashing his control panel on his suit, which I thought makes sense, you know. And then there's this one final bit where he jumps and hits him, cuts his helmet. I thought, how did he manage to just cut the very edge of that all the way from there to there without cutting his head, you know, chopping his head off? But
they wanted to see Christian Haydenson, didn't they, in the suit?
They did. That's why that was done, wasn't it? It was that for that effect. And although I quite liked the way they did the voice, with the fact it was half a bit of Vader, half a bit of Hayden Christensen, you know, to sort of show that side of things. I found
that I liked what they were trying to do with that. Yeah. It was a shame it was Christian Haydenson inside when he appeared. Even in that short little bit of time, his acting was terrible. It was so bad. I was taken back like some kind of sad, crazy dream to when he was like 20 and playing Annie back in the prequels, and he does that scream, that kind of spoiled brat type scream at the end, and the kind of
I know, and but I was like, he's being consistent, isn't he? He's being consistent with what he played in the prequels, you know.
But he should have learned from that and realized how bad that was.
To be honest, I didn't think it was too bad. I know what you mean, but I think he was on
so stony.
He was struggling to breathe. You know, it was. I think you're being a bit harsh. I know you're not a fan of the old Hayden Christensen and what he did in your prequel. No one is really, but I didn't think I think it was too bad, and I quite liked the fact they were doing the voice side of things, mixing his voice and Darth's voice, and it was very much a kind of a goodbye to Anakin Skywalker, really, wasn't it? And giving Obi-Wan a what's the word? He was blaming himself, wasn't he, for all the things that kind of happened to Anakin. And he's saying, no, I killed Anakin Skywalker, not you. You know, it was me that killed him. And I think that was the whole point of this. You know, the whole point of the series for me was basically,
this is what I said at the beginning.
He started off as a loser. Now he's got back to his old self. You know, got over these bad hits he's had and all the negative, you know, feelings, and you know, it's a different start for him now. Although it seems a bit weird to have a start when we're.
I think this was from the first 20 minutes of the show. This was the first episode. This is what was going to happen. Yeah. There's no surprises. There's no twists. No. We needed this realization to have more poignancy through us being led on a different path to reach this stage, rather than the blatantly obvious storyline that they've had this whole way through this really probably the worst Star Wars series ever created. And that's how I feel about it. I know you probably don't think it's bad as I do, but I just think that it was so poor that there was so little content. We could have had this whole thing summarized in an hour, and Reva's character ended up.
I agree with you.
Purpose.
Yeah,
you know, there are no other characters that come out of this. We had nothing. It was just basically Darth versus Obi-Wan, and that just a little bit of that. You know, they want to try and take some of that old magic, and they've really wasted it.
No, you're right. There aren't any real new characters, are there? Not really. You know, there aren't any new sort of things that you think, oh, that would be good to see where they go. That's the problem with this, isn't it? It is very much, it is about Obi-Wan. He's what's he going to do now? Is he going off on a journey? It's not quite.
Yeah, where is he going?
Yeah, it's weird because obviously in the beginning of New Hope, he's still on Tatooine, isn't he? He's in the background. So
unfortunately, they're setting up for a second series, aren't they? Basically,
they are,
which is really depressing because it was so bad. Oh my god!
I thought this was a better episode than we've had from previous episodes. I quite liked the fight. I thought it was mainly because I thought the one in the third episode was so bad. How they did that, how they made
Couldn't get much worse, could it? I mean,
it was really bad, wasn't it? How that all happened. So this made that look much better, you know. And yeah, I didn't have a problem with that. I think you're right. You could have just had that fight on this planet, really, couldn't you? They could have just come across each other, had a fight on the planet, and that would have been the whole series sort of condensed into a short period. The
really bad plotting and bad storyline.
Yeah,
Obi-Wan had very little to say during the fights, which I thought was really, really unfortunate.
Yes, I know you like a good sort of conflict.
Yeah, impacting line, because you see, they're not just fighting with the swords, Greg. They're fighting with their minds as well.
You're absolutely right. I totally
psychological
agree.
probing.
Yes,
that could just take the other one down if you say the right thing at the right time.
That's why the fights in the original films were good. You know, they had that. You know, remember on the Death Star in Return of the Jedi, where he's I won't fight you, and then he's probing his mind is no, you betrayed your sister, you know, and he maybe she'll and you know all that sort
made
of
him
thing
angry,
bring out the anger and so on. There's none of that
into the dark side.
They could have. You're right. They could have done more with a dialogue with this, because they had plenty to say to each other. They could have had much more dialogue.
Definitely.
And, you know,
I was writing the lines as I was watching it in my head. I was saying things.
Even if Obi-Wan could try and persuade him to come back and, you know, come away from the dark side, you know, because that was always a possibility, wasn't it?
And I also think that with these fights, they've forgotten that the art of lightsaber fights, it's an ancient art that is cultured and sophisticated.
Yeah.
With some of the previous fights, even with people like Darth Maul, you've got a solid fighting system. They're measured and they fight, and with these fights, they've been kind of chaotic and berserk. And with that, I think back to that fight that I watched a couple of hours ago. What I think about is rocks flying at Darth Vader. That's what springs into my head, not the chivalry, the class of the lightsaber battle. You know, it's just an all-out smash. Yeah, there's no sophistication.
It's a lot rough around the edges, wasn't it? You know, than other sword fights. But I still kind of enjoyed it. I think the problem with it is they've got to find ways to bring the series, bring the whole thing along a bit, you know, something new. But it's very difficult to do that when you're in an area which is before the original films, you know.
It is with the original characters.
Yes.
If they had introduced new characters that weren't in, like Reva, they introduced her, and they tried to give her a storyline which was pants. But you know, I think at the end of the day,
it was. I mean, let's just have a quick talk about her, because obviously she goes down, she gets attacked by Owen and Beru. You know, they defend their home, and again, it's nighttime, isn't it? This is all sort of like, it was quite a dark episode, just lighting wise, and they're shooting a lot. There's a lot of shooting, trying to push things off onto her, and she manages to get through, and she sees and Luke runs off into the dunes. She follows him. Did something fall on Luke then? I couldn't remember if something happened to Luke, because he fell, and then Obi-Wan heard his cries, didn't he, from galaxies away.
I couldn't see, to be honest. I couldn't see exactly what happened to him. So he's Obi-Wan sensed that he was in trouble, didn't he? So he then heads back to Tatooine, where Reva is she's gonna kill Luke, you know. She doesn't. Yeah, which is why? Why is she gonna?
Yeah, she didn't know that this was Anakin's son, surely. How did she just work that out? You know,
at one point she says, "For revenge."
Yeah,
didn't she? For revenge.
Yeah.
It's like, why does this not make any sense whatsoever?
Yeah. And it would have no impact on Vader because he knows nothing about his children, does he? So
yeah,
it's totally, you know, and it damages the potential storyline of New Hope and so on, because he's not supposed to have had any adventures like that, Luke. He's not supposed to have anything, you know, to know that he's part.
He doesn't know what Jedi are.
He doesn't know what that is.
No, because Ben has to explain it to him.
That's right.
In the New Hope.
He gives him a lightsaber. He gives him, what's this? And he's like in amazement at what it is. You know, she had a lightsaber, didn't she? But I suppose he was unconscious most of that time. So maybe, you know, they get away with it saying you don't remember because he was unconscious.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that, but it seems like you would remember something as terrifying as that, wouldn't you?
Yeah. So as Obi-Wan is turning up, I love that Obi-Wan is in galaxies far away, and he's managed to get back in the 5 minutes that you know, there's no time.
They did that the whole series. They've done that throughout the series.
Yeah,
people have just turned up 5 minutes later.
Yeah, in a completely different.
Can't wait until traveling through time is that easy. That's going to be great when that happens.
Yeah, so she brings the boy back, and she's actually quite repentant. She realized she's becoming, well, she doesn't want to become Darth Vader, does she? Which is you know, one of the sort of classic things in Star Wars, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that could have been explored a bit more.
Yeah,
they could have explored that more. That could have given her character more agency.
Could have been a much better character, couldn't she?
Oh,
they could have had more backstory. They could have done more with her. She you know, it all sort of comes out at the end there, doesn't she? She's upset, and then that's it. You know, there's no resolution for her. She's just a one-off standalone figure that's not probably going to be in Star Wars again, you know. Very strange. You know, you see Darth Vader after the battle. He's back on his planet, and he's talking to the Emperor. And this bit's a bit too convenient as well. It's like Vader's still desperate to find Kenobi, but the Emperor sort of says, you know, you mustn't be weak, you know, and worry about this. He's nothing to worry about, you know. So it's kind of like, oh, now we don't have to chase Kenobi anymore.
Yeah,
give him some space if he's got a season 2 to come. Yeah. So then we see Obi-Wan again. He's gone back to Alderaan. He sees Leia. He'd given her was it the holster that his mother had or something? Was it a gun holster or something like that? Because she's
Tala. Did Tala have it?
Tala. That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tala had it.
It was like, yeah. So he gave that to her, and she's obviously sporting that now.
Somehow they managed to recover it from the battle scene. You know, so
that's right. The one where they fled and didn't go back to. Yeah. So she's back on Alderaan. They see Obi-Wan turn up. There's quite a nice little touching moment with him and her, you know, where he sort of says, you know, I'm sorry I lied about your parents, and, you know, you've got these good attributes from your mother and these from your father. And I say, yeah, other than that, he's a suicide murderer, you know, mass murderer. But it's I can see what he was trying to do. And these kind of little tie-ups at the end here. He goes back to Tatooine, he sees Owen and says, yeah, you're right, you're the best protection for the kids, and I'm gonna go off somewhere. And he heads off into the thing and sees Qui-Gon, doesn't he? It's all you know, it's all a bit it sort of just tailed off, didn't it? Very sort of uneventfully.
Very weird. And I didn't like the fact that Obi-Wan was allowed to meet Luke.
Yes. Yeah.
I didn't think that was right. I felt that was too close. Luke is strong in the Force.
Yeah.
So you'd think that he would sense Obi-Wan once he'd met him. He'd have a bit more of a bond with him. And that, you know, that I don't think there's a line in the New Hope where he says, oh yeah, he came down to the farm once or something like that. You know, there's nothing like that. It was a shame, because I think that moment Obi-Wan should have said,
there's that bit where the droids say, he says a C3PO is translating for R2. He says he's the property of Obi Wan Kenobi, and he said, "Oh, I wonder if he means old Ben. There's an old hermit guy who lives out by."
Yeah, he never says he comes down to the farm though.
Yeah, and I'm not.
So it's like rumor, but you see, the thing is, right? I reckon that Obi-Wan should have. When Obi-Wan walked up to him and said, "Would you like to meet him?" I think Obi-Wan should have said, "No."
Yeah,
and then they should have gone their separate ways.
Yeah.
I think that would have been much more powerful.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think
that's a good idea. Yeah, but the reason they were doing that was because they wanted that him to try and say that hello there in the old Obi-Wan sort of way. Do you know what I mean? That's why
there's that reference.
Hello there. That's going around a bit at the moment on social media and stuff. It's like, oh my god. I mean,
are we doing stuff for memes now? Is that where Star Trek's found itself?
Star Wars.
Sorry, Star Wars. Oh my god. Cut that bit. Are we doing that for memes now? Are we doing Star Wars for memes? Is that what it's about?
The one other thing I should have said when we were talking about the fight, which I meant to say, was when Obi-Wan had kind of beaten Darth and they were talking at the end there, and he sort of said, "Oh well, my friend is gone." Why didn't he just kill Darth Vader? Because he's in A New Hope, you know. It's like they put him in a situation where he can't actually kill him, but he was in a perfect position. The guy was beaten, he was struggling. Why didn't he just finish him off? Why didn't he put a through him and say, well, because he's obviously he's in the New
Locked
Hope.
his head off would have been better.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? To him, he wasn't Anakin Skywalker anymore. He was Darth Vader. And so for me, I think he should have finished him off. But is that not too Jedi?
So what you're saying is they've all this time they've been trying to set it up for this moment, but they've actually set themselves up to fail, because the reality of it is they would have killed him. It's all a big cock up, and they
killed him, wouldn't he?
Terribly directed, terribly written. It's terrible.
Yeah,
I'm shocked at the opportunity. I was excited about this series. It's part of the reason why I'm like I am now with this.
Yeah,
I just feel that there was so much opportunity here to explore something interesting.
Yes,
and it was just, I just hate it. I couldn't stand it.
I didn't hate it. I think my problem is now that I'm getting used to the fact that a lot of these series are pretty pants. They're not, like you say, they're not. Boba Fett was pretty rubbish, wasn't it?
Terrible.
Mandalorian is good. I enjoyed both seasons. Everyone says, "Oh, the first season's brilliant." I think both seasons were good. You know, good.
And
good stuff.
I think there's a trend here, and you've pointed it out by saying that. And that is the best ones, the best series we've seen are about new characters.
New characters, absolutely. The
old characters, they should not touch them. They should just leave them alone.
Yeah,
do new characters.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Boba Fett in the original films, I mean, he was only on the screen like 15 minutes, 20 minutes for the whole. But he became a legendary character, didn't he? Because it was the thought of him and how he was, you know, to then do a whole series where you've got to try and, you know, I think that's what the problem was, you know. You didn't actually see Boba Fett fight much when he was in the original films, was he? He was just following them around, really. There's that one bit on the barge in the Return of the Jedi where he's fighting with Luke a little bit. But you're spot on.
Mystique.
You're spot on.
Mystique.
We shouldn't be going back over these old grounds. We need to find new parts of it away from these other, you know, established characters, because all they're doing is they're buggering up their own history. You know, they're
rarely works to go back. It rarely works. I mean, it's like we grow up, become adults, and then we might watch some of the great TV shows that we watched when we were kids. And they're crap compared to what we remember them being, you know, because we were captivated in that moment by the time, the place.
We were kids,
we were kids. But I mean, it's just, and they're doing that. They're ripping the heart out of what Star Wars was. Unfortunately, I was willing to keep my mind open a bit more up until up to the beginning of this series. I was hopeful, But I
Yeah.
feel so betrayed by this series that I just can't take it seriously.
Yeah,
And
you could have condensed most of it down, couldn't you? Like you say,
Mm.
to an hour or two. There wasn't storyline wasn't huge, was it? You know, they had six episodes. I mean, they weren't that long sort of running episodes either, were they? 30, 35 minutes, 40 minutes. And yeah, totally devoid of any good new
subplot,
characters,
no
subplot,
subplot.
you know.
I mean, it's going to be interesting because Andor's coming out soon,
Yes.
and that takes a character played by Diego Luna,
Yeah.
who he had sort of a sub role in Rebel One, didn't he? And
Rogue One.
Rogue One, and he I wasn't big on that character. He's pretty.
No.
I don't remember much about him.
Right.
So it'd be really interesting to see whether using a different character as a
Yes.
lead in a show is going to make that work. So that's going to be fascinating.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely have a review of that when it comes
Oh,
up.
for sure.
If they made a second season of Obi Wan, will you watch it?
You know, I faced the same question when it came to Doctor Who, because Doctor Who was pretty shocking.
Yes.
And I will watch it. Do you know
Yes.
why? Because the production values of the sets and what you look at is interesting. It's like you can watch a bad film if it's got like good effects or it's got like a good production values.
Yeah.
Apart from the script.
Yeah.
And I think I feel like I've dedicated a lot of my life to Star Wars, and I have to suffer with this stuff because it's Star Wars is an important part of my childhood. And you know,
the gems are so small now, aren't they? That are in these series. It's not. It's and my concern is obviously this is a Disney Plus. You know, they've got this service. They want to
just make content.
They've got to keep producing loads of new content, and that's the problem. It's just churning it out. It's not good quality. It's not really trying to seek the essence of something and make a story, you know, with a reason behind it. It's very much we're trying to keep Disney Plus going, I think. I'm hoping they're not going to bugger up the old Mandalorian series. You know, that you've got to be careful not to push these things too far.
We've got to hope that John Favreau retains control over that, because if he releases that, then it's going to be destroyed. He's the only one with any sort of creative integrity left within the system, you know. So this,
and even then, I think he is curtailed by Kathleen Kennedy and others.
Definitely
what he's got to do, you know. So well, there we go. What would you give the series overall?
What, out of 10?
Yeah.
Probably 3.5.
3.5. Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad. I was gonna say a 5 or a 6, you know.
Well, that's you give it what you want. I feel so let down at the moment. It's difficult to put into words.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks. Thanks for the discussion today, Toby. And
sorry about that. All very depressing.
No, it's just honest, isn't it? You know, it's just the way it is now, isn't it? We get our hopes up and they blooming dash them again. God damn it! Come on, Disney, think about it a bit more.
They need to find the right man or woman to do it, don't they? They need someone who's inspired and creative and has the bigger picture. Is a true Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
And not employ writers who've like written one TV series and have no kind of career,
no understanding of the background of Star Wars, you know. Yeah, it's a shame. Good. Anyway, well, thanks very much for joining us on Geek Rant today. We've we've speared that one to death. But we've got some more shows coming up soon. If you like what we're doing, obviously press the like button and subscribe, and leave any comments that you'd like to give us.
Yeah, please do.
Good. Thanks very much, and see you soon.